Just make sure that you really take your time with it, so just don't rush. And then I like to record people all the way through, but if you make a mistake, it's okay, don't worry. You can just stop and pause and start again at the beginning.
It's 1980. I'm 7 years old, on vacation in Karachi, Pakistan. I follow her into the dark entrance up 2 flights of stairs. We pause outside a badly scratched door, and my aunt rings the bell.
Good?
Yeah,
Do you think it sounds better?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, great.
thank you.
That's it.
Two years ago, I took part in a workshop with StoryCenter. It felt really important that we organize this workshop so that we can have other women who either have undergone female genital cutting, female genital mutilation, or know of women in their families or others in their community members who have undergone it, for them to tell their own stories in their own words.
I chose to tell this particular story because I feel very misunderstood.
I chose to tell this particular story in the workshop to highlight how traumatizing the experience of being cut is.
I think before speaking out, before taking a stance, before figuring out your own viewpoint, first you need to understand fully what's happened so you can reflect and move on from there and start to heal.
And I would like other survivors of FGM just to stand out, to get that strength, to be able to step up, and also to talk about the pain.
Even though this is a harmful practice, we can learn to forgive each other, and we can hope with that forgiveness to be able to prevent it to future generation of girls.
Initially, I thought sharing my story with the group would be difficult because there are a lot of sort of raw emotions that I still had.
Sharing the story the first day was a bit of a surprise to me because I became emotional, and this happened 70 years ago.
It was difficult to really talk about it because it feels very selfish. A lot of people were telling their stories about their own katnas, and I don't remember my own.
I haven't really shared my story publicly. This was my first time doing it with a big group.
I was very nervous about it initially because I didn't think I could do that much in 3 days.
I'm really new to speaking out. I just started to get involved with advocacy and activist groups just earlier this year, and before that I kind of sat with my own disagreement with FGC.
And in that sense, it helped me to overcome some of the shame that has lingered with me as a result of being cut to this day.
I've seen growth within me. I've grown, and I've also enjoyed, that sisterhood, the unity that, every other participant showed.
And it's actually strengthened my love for my community. And, even though I disagree with this one practice, that love is still very strong, and it's a part of who I am.
I'm hoping that viewers will realize that female genital mutilation is not just something that happens to people of a different color in a faraway land.
Supporters of genital cutting claim that the cutting in the Bora community is just like a nick or a scrape that causes no harm and in fact may enhance sexual pleasure. Through my story, I want to explain how in fact it is a form of violence that has remained and foreshadowed my life.
I really hope that when people watch my video, that they'll understand that I love my mother, and yes, I did undergo this, and she did take me to have FGC done or katna done, but she was a great mother and she did what she thought was right at the time.
I hope people will realize that FGC is complicated. It's not just a one-sided, one-dimensional kind of issue. And also that, mother-daughter, mother-child relationships can be very complicated. You can still love your mother very much and still maybe question some of the decisions that she made.
One of my more immediate goals is to take all the really important messages that I heard and take them home and talk with the people around me first, because I think if everybody starts those conversations, then little things add up to big things.
In the future, I hope to reach out to individuals who might be against the practice of FGC in the community, but they're just afraid to speak out for whatever reasons.
There is a hope for young girls out there if we can only unite together all over the world and say no to FGM.
And I want people to know that it's okay, you know, it doesn't change your identity, it doesn't change who you are.
The hope is that as we share these stories, we can inspire other women and other men even from communities where this might be occurring to help speak up publicly about it and really stop female genital cutting from being a taboo topic that is only talked about in private circles to something that is public and something that we all can recognize is a harmful practice that we need to end.
It's 1980. I'm 7 years old on summer vacation in Karachi, Pakistan. One morning, my aunt comes to take me shopping. I'm excited. We head to Sadr and stop at an unfamiliar apartment building. My aunt says, I just have to run an errand. I follow her into a dark entrance up 2 flights of stairs. We pause outside a badly scratched door, and my aunt rings the bell. An elderly woman greets us. She's dressed in a ghagra koti, and her head is covered with a dupatta. The apartment is cramped and hot, musty. The woman leads us into a brightly painted room. Suddenly, and without any warning, she grabs me and pushes me onto my back. She strips off my panties and spread eagles me with well-practiced efficiency. Before I know what's happening, I feel a sharp, hot pain between my legs. As I cry out, she says triumphantly, "Done." She quickly bundles me into a cloth diaper and brings me to my feet. Only then do I notice a pair of old scissors with blood on them on a tray next to her. I hear my aunt say, "Auntie ne salam karo?" I obey. The whole thing takes less than 15 minutes. I'm filled with shame. My mom had caught me exploring my body a few weeks before. This is a sin, she'd said. So I believe I have been punished. Over the years, I've wondered, would I have grown up more confident if I'd never been cut? Would I have been better able to appreciate and enjoy my body? Or been more comfortable with sex and intimacy? I will never know. I think back to that salam and my blood boils.
I was born in 1944 to a loving Midwestern American farm family. We were close to the earth and our animals. When I was 3, my mother became concerned that my face turned red when I touched my clitoris. She brought me to a doctor, and the doctor cut me. My mother said, "Don't ever talk about this." I was alone with my questions as a child, teenager, and young adult. I did not discuss nerve damage discomfort, even with my sisters. When I gave birth to my first child, I did not talk about the complications I faced. I wanted a natural labor, but the doctor didn't know what to do. He put me under to perform an extensive episiotomy. I awoke 4 hours after my daughter was born, and it took my body months to heal. I told a couple from my church about what had happened to me as a child. They said, "Don't ever tell that story again." Later, I shared with women at work who said, "Don't repeat that or you'll ruin your career." But is this really my shame? What about other women having their babies with doctors who don't know what to do? I could not stay silent, and I started reaching out to new people. My Somali friend Filsan Ali and I produced a bilingual brochure for infibulated Somali women to give to their doctors to make safe labor and delivery plans. I went public internationally, and my close friends and family supported me. Creating art and connecting with nature has helped me heal. I've learned to spin wool and weave on a loom. I have found peace in flower gardens, weeding, deadheading, and making bouquets. Today I live where eagles soar and deer feed by a river. I hope my story will help people be aware that girls have been cut in cultures throughout the world.
I wasn't born with an emotional filter, but I developed one pretty quickly as a kid. I learned, if you're upset, never show how you're feeling. If you have a personal issue, keep it to yourself. When a family member was sick, I would lie and say, "Oh, they're fine," so he wouldn't look weak. When I was going through puberty, I even nicknamed pads lemonheads, so I wouldn't have to talk about my period openly. Reputation always came before expression. I mean, what will everyone say? So on a road trip to Michigan a few years ago, a friend with good intentions pulled up a podcast. He knew I was Bora, and since the episode related to the Bora community, he thought it would interest me. We listened together as a young Bora woman opened up about her experience as a victim of female genital cutting, or katna. Without censorship or shame, she shared everything, from the physical act of being cut to the sharp pains she experiences now as she explores her adult sexuality. It was an openness I'd never heard before, and it hit hard. By the end of the story, I was sobbing. In 30 minutes, she had helped me feel what had been hurting me for 7 years. You see, when I was 13, I was also cut. I was too young and too naive to understand what was being taken from me, so it was something I'd never reflected on or even thought twice about. Thinking about it now and talking about it now is helping me. Now, every time I hear somebody tell their story, it makes me a little braver. I hope my story can help others too. I hope my story will help others living with FGC find their voice too.
I'm a Samburu from northern Kenya, the last-born girl in a polygamous family. When I was 8, I started boarding school with Catholic nuns. My dad was angry with my mom for allowing me to go to school, but she supported me. Just before my 13th birthday, I went back to my village during the Christmas holiday. One morning, my mother woke me up and said, "You have to be strong. It is your day to become a woman and not be dirty anymore. You have to face everything that women face, because I have also faced it." I was led outside our muddy hut, where a smoky fire burned. My clothes were removed, and cold water mixed with milk was poured over me, while my arms and legs were held. I was cut several times with a razor blade. My sister stood next to me, holding a stick, and said, "Don't cry. You will bring shame to our mother." I kept quiet to avoid being beaten. I heard a woman say, "Make sure that it's all cut out." Then I passed out. When I woke up, my whole body hurt. I thought about how I'd been naked in front of all those women, and I did not want to see anyone. Why would our ancestors pass this act down to us? I could not accept it, but others do. Women keep it going, and men never asked about what our girls go through. They only say, "This is what is supposed to happen." When I speak out to educate young girls that they can refuse to be cut, many people say, "Why are you crushing our traditions?" But no one has ever convinced me that the pain of female genital mutilation is justified in the name of culture or anything else. If I ever have a daughter, she will never go through what I went through. I hope my story will inspire other survivors to step up and help young girls to say no to FGM.
Mom, do you remember when we talked to that reporter? We went upstairs so Dad couldn't hear us. I was fidgeting nervously on the sofa. You were focused on making sure there were enough samosas and laddus for your guest. I didn't know what to expect because growing up, we didn't discuss sex. We didn't discuss it when I was 13 and didn't know the horrible pains in my stomach were period cramps. We didn't discuss it when I was 12 and you silently placed a pack of bras wrapped in brown paper in my room. And we didn't discuss it when I was 6 and you took me to the apartment of an elderly relative to be cut. Yet, over 30 years later, you agreed to discuss female genital cutting with me and this reporter. You told her how you waited in the next room because you couldn't bear to see your little girl suffer, but also how you were convinced what you did was right. When the reporter asked me if I blamed you, I said no, that you were just as much a victim as I was. Only sometimes I'm not so sure. I know you loved me and my sisters. As kids, you sewed us matching outfits and sang us Urdu lullabies. Even now, I know you will come running to take care of my boys and massage my head if I get a migraine. Still, I wonder if you really had to do it. I know it must have been hard for you to say no, but you still had a choice. You could have spared us. Why didn't you? I don't know what I was hoping you'd share with that reporter that day. Sorrow, empathy, regret. Whatever it was, I didn't hear it then, and I'm not sure I ever will. But I'm trying to make peace with that so I can move on. I hope my story will help break the taboo against speaking about sex and female genital cutting that still exists in many religious communities.
When I was 5, my grandma took me to see a lady. They pulled the curtain close, made me lay down, and then cut me. My dad didn't want it done to me, so my grandma did it when he was out of town. He was mad later, and my 2 younger sisters have not been cut. For years, I made fun of girls who hadn't had it done. We thought we were better than they were. Our whole family moved to the States, and when I was about 12 to 13 years, I overheard my mom and my auntie arguing. My auntie wanted to have her daughter cut, even though she herself had needed to be cut open again to have sex, and then wasn't able to have a vaginal birth. I heard my mom tell my auntie, "You don't need to do it. Look at my 2 daughters. They're fine." I had to confront my mom. Why was she sticking up for my cousin when she hadn't for me? She told me she had felt bad about letting my grandma and my great-grandma take me that day. She said yes, I allowed it, but I made sure it was the sunnah, the least harmful kind. Digging deeper, I learned it's not a religious practice. It's a cultural thing that's passed down. There's nothing in the Quran about it, but aunties and grandmothers do it. If you hadn't had it done, you're considered promiscuous. Men ask you, "Magudan tahay?" If you're not, they get turned off. At least the newer generation is talking more openly about it. I thought it was normal for a long time, but I think differently now. I hope my story will end the woeful ignorance on the issue of FGC.
I'm a proud Dawoodi Bora, and I'm against female Khatna in my community. Some people think that I can't be both. The local Amil sent me a message, through a mutual contact, saying that the work I do to end female Khatna is good, and that I should not talk about it publicly. I tried to arrange a meeting with him, but he kept delaying it and delaying it. Then Sayyidna announced that female Khatna is required and must be done in secret. And the Amil and his contacts stopped talking about it with me. But I kept talking, and people on social media hit back. How can you be a real Bora? You don't wear Rida. You don't attend masjid regularly. You don't follow what Sayyidna says without question. But if I question one practice, does that mean I am not a member of the community? Am I not a real Bora? Am I exposing the community's secrets? But wait, whose secret is it? The girls or the community's? Our community is known for being progressive. People say Bora women are educated, not like in other groups. They're encouraged to have careers, to lead. This is our reputation. And yet we are still cut. I've heard our people defend Khatna. It makes Bora women focused. It's what helps them be serious about their careers. Without it, you'd see more Bora couples divorcing. It keeps our women healthy. I'm a proud Dawoodi Bora. I love my community and always have. I had my misak, I married a Bora, we raise our kids Bora. I think if you love your community, then you help it grow. And if I had a daughter, I would not have her cut. I hope my story will make people realize that you can love a community and want to help it without destroying it.
I was 20 when I first learned about it. It was a sunny California day, and my family was sitting around the dining table, sipping chai. Someone brought up the Bora doctor arrested for performing female genital cutting on young girls in Michigan. I was shocked. I said, "Is this actually something that occurs in our community?" And my mother calmly pulled me aside. We settled into our worn-out leather sofas, and she told me about her own experience. My strong, compassionate mother, who had journeyed to the U.S. on her own and become a marketing data analyst, had been cut when she was a little girl. I asked her why she had decided not to have me cut. She said she'd called my aunt and asked her if she was having my cousin cut. My aunt said no. She called another aunt. That aunt said no too. And a third. And then she called her own mother and asked, "Does Islam say I have to have her cut?" My grandmother said no. So she spared me the pain that she had felt. It took me a while to feel grateful for what my mother did for me in making the choice to end cutting in our own family. I had grown up feeling in control of my body and my identity. But now the curtain was lifted. Was I supposed to feel different because I was spared? Like I was better or like I was worse? When I walk into a room of Bora women, I wonder if behind the rituals, customs, and veils, these women are hiding a pain, like my mother hid. I wonder if they're harboring a secret. Sometimes I feel like I'm harboring my own secret, that I haven't been cut. But I speak out anyways. I hope my story will create a safe and supportive space for mothers to say no to female genital cutting.
My mother was furious when I first saw her at Boston Logan Airport. She kept telling my father, "You talk to your daughter. Make her understand what she did was wrong." They had come to see me graduate from my MFA program, but it seemed as if my mother had come to scold me for revealing to ABC News I had been cut at the age of 7. Female genital cutting was supposed to be kept silent. I had done the opposite. A religious leader at my parents' mosque had informed my dad there might be trouble for them because of what I had done. 2 days later, my mother's tone changed. We were sitting in my parents' hotel room. My mother said, "Maria, why couldn't you have only talked about your research on Katna? Why did you say you had gone through it?" As my mother's face softened, I saw she still might have guilt over it. She once told me my aunt had gone with us when she took me to have Katna done. She was afraid to see me in pain and needed my aunt's support. I don't recall my aunt's presence, but I do remember my mother taking me in her arms, holding me tight, and wiping away my tears. In the hotel room, as my mother and I spoke to each other, I wondered if the reason why so many women don't discuss Katna or acknowledge it as harmful is because to speak of it out loud is to admit our community caused pain to its daughters. Matching the calming voice my mother was now using, I told her, "I've never blamed you." She didn't respond right away, but we looked at each other and understood we had forgiven one another. I hope my story will create a ripple effect of women and girls who are sharing their female genital cutting stories so that we can create culture change and we can prevent future generations of girls from undergoing female genital cutting.